Hey, tonight you're not in your bed. You're lying on a thin straw mat on a cracked stone floor. Outside, somewhere beyond the shutters, the marble streets of Rome are glowing under the early morning sun. You'd think that would feel like luxury, but it's not. Your blanket smells like old wine and sweat because it's made from an ex-slave's tunic. Your feet are cold, your stomach growls, and somewhere nearby, a neighbor is already yelling at a rooster. You think life in ancient Rome was all aqueducts and poetry? Try 4 flights of creaking stairs, no plumbing, and a rat chewing through your cheese. Your bones ache from the stone. There's dust in your nose. The smell of last night's cooking still clings to the air, olive oil and something sour. And this is the golden age, the best it ever got. What time is it? Where you are, I'd love to know where you're listening from. If you like these strange, sleepy journeys into the past, maybe hit subscribe. It really does help, more than you think. Now dim the lights. Let yourself sink. You're not in control anymore. You're in history. And Rome doesn't care if you're tired. You wake up to shouting. Again. Someone's arguing with the fishmonger in the street below. You roll over, but there's no pillow. Just a folded tunic. The wooden floor under your mat creaks with every movement. Above you, someone is pouring water from a clay jar, and it's leaking through the ceiling. You don't bother wiping it off. Your room is one of many in a 5-story insula, a crammed apartment block of wood, brick, and plaster. You're on the 3rd floor. No running water, no toilet, just a shared bucket in the hallway that you hope gets emptied today. There's one window too small to see the sky. It lets in light and smell. The walls are thin. You hear coughing in the next room, a baby crying, a couple arguing about bread. Downstairs, someone is frying onions over charcoal. Your nose twitches. You're hungry. Your sandals are under your bedroll. You slide them on and hope the sole hasn't split. Outside your room, the hallway is dark, and a mouse darts past your toes. You step over a sleeping body. It's your cousin, maybe, or just someone who never left. This is your home. It's not a villa. It's not marble. But it's Rome. And it's yours for now. There's no kitchen, just a corner near the stairwell where someone keeps a fire going. You break your fast with a hunk of bread yesterday's hard, around the edges. You dip it in sour wine. That helps. Some days you might find a bit of cheese. Rarely. A fig if you're lucky. But this morning it's just bread and whatever's left in the cup. You sit on a warm stone, still radiating heat from the sun the day before, and chew slowly. Around you, others do the same. A boy with soot on his face sips watered-down wine from a cracked cup. A woman sharpens a knife with her teeth. No one speaks. The city is just waking up. In the distance, you hear a bell ring. Not a church bell, but a signal from the forum. Something important is happening today. A speech, a trial, another parade. Your stomach rumbles again, but there's no more bread. You wipe your fingers on your tunic and stand. Time to go. You wonder what the rich eat. Probably eggs, maybe honey cakes, maybe food without mold. But breakfast is done, and so is silence. Rome is roaring now, carts rolling, dogs barking, vendors shouting. You step into the noise, still chewing. There's a tiny shrine at the corner of your street, a rough carving of Mercury with faded red paint on his sandals. Someone's left a coin. Someone else stole it. You light a bit of incense, or try to. It's damp. The smoke curls half-heartedly. You whisper a prayer. Not for fortune, just for a quiet day. Inside your building, there's a wall with chalk scribbles, names, taxes owed, notices from the local Aidile finds water rations grain deliveries. You don't always read them, but they always find you. You believe in the gods, but you know the power of the magistrates. They knock, they demand, they don't listen. Your landlord says the building's stable. The stairway shook yesterday. A neighbor died last week. No one blamed the architect, just the stars. Bad omens, they said. Mars is angry, or maybe Pluto. Either way, there's no refund. You wear a pendant of Fortuna around your neck, but it's chipped. You're not sure if she still smiles on you. Today isn't like the others. You feel it in the air, a tension, a tremble. The streets are packed early, voices louder, smells stronger. The baker's already sold out. Someone shouts, "To the Colosseum." The emperor is giving free games, bread, blood, distraction. It works. You don't have a ticket. Doesn't matter. If you stand near the gates, you'll still hear the crowd, the roars, the screams, the silence when someone falls. You pass a group of gladiators marching, some tall and confident, others pale and trembling. One meets your eyes. He looks like your brother. Vendors sell sausages on sticks. A pickpocket bumps your elbow. You don't stop. A trumpet sounds from the distance. It echoes through stone streets, bouncing off arches and bathhouses. A child runs past, carrying a wooden sword. You follow the crowd, feet aching, mouth dry. Today, the people are fed. Today, the people forget. And you're just another face in the roar. You walk downhill with the crowd, sandals clicking over uneven stones. The sun's still low, but the forum is already alive. People are shouting, not in anger, just the Roman way of talking. Loud, sharp, urgent. Somewhere in the mix, a man is singing off-key about olives. Vendors have staked their corners. One sells dyed wool, bright as spilled wine. Another piles goat cheese on damp leaves, the smell clinging to your tongue. You pass a fishmonger with his wares still twitching. Silver wet their eyes, unblinking. A senator walks past in white, his toga pristine despite the filth. People clear a path like water parting around a rock. You don't. A dog barks, a cart creaks. Someone sweeping ashes from a shrine. Ash and sandal dust mix in the air, and you taste it without opening your mouth. You stop near a column that's older than your grandfather. Scratched words cover it, declarations of love, debts, unpaid insults. Lucia is a pig. Marcus owes me 3 denarii. I was here. A friend spots you. He's selling scrolls today. You smile, you nod, you don't stop. There's news of an execution later. Not someone you know, not someone anyone knows. But people will go, because blood is interesting. The baths open at midday, but you get there early. You like the heat and the silence before the crowd. It starts with the warm room, tepidarium. The air wraps around you like a damp blanket. Men sit on benches, eyes half closed, steam rising from their shoulders. You nod at a familiar face. He nods back. No words. You move to the hot room, calidarium. It hits you like a wall. Moist, heavy, sulphurous. Your breath shortens. Sweat beads instantly. The stone beneath your feet is hot enough to sting. You sit anyway. Someone pours water over a brazier. The hiss is sharp. Your skin sings. A man begins to hum. Another cracks a joke about senators. Someone laughs too loudly. You keep your eyes low. In the next room, 2 men argue softly, quickly. Money. You recognize the words. Bribes, elections, someone's name whispered. You pretend not to hear. Later in the cold pool, your muscles tighten. You feel alive, awake, and watched. On the way out, you rub oil onto your arms. A slave scrapes it off with a strigil. He doesn't speak. His eyes are tired. You leave cleaner than you came. But something stays on you. A thought, a whisper, a look. You're not here as a guest. You're here to pour wine. The domus is large. Too large. Walls painted with gods and monsters, marble everywhere. The atrium echoes when someone laughs. Tonight's host is a wealthy man with yellowed teeth and loud opinions. He gestures with his whole body when he talks. Wine sloshes. You're ready. The guests recline on couches draped in silk. Their feet are bare, their fingers sticky with dates and honey. You stand silently by the jug. You pour when cued. You keep your eyes low. You listen. They talk of politics, of grain prices, of theater, of war. One man boasts of owning 30 slaves, another laughs he owns more. They don't see you as real. Your background. Someone snaps their fingers. More wine. You nod. In the kitchen, a boy stirs lentils. A girl slices fish. Steam fogs the walls. Sweat runs down backs. No one speaks there either. Later, when the laughter grows drunk and messy, one man tries to grab you. You step away subtly. He chuckles and forgets. When the plates are cleared and the torches dim, you walk home alone. The scent of roasted meat still clings to your tunic, but you didn't taste any of it. You pass it every day, a crumbling wall near the Subura district. Its surface is covered in messages, scratched, inked, charcoaled. Julia loves Petronius. Down with the consul, Aulus was here, and he stank. Some of it makes you laugh, some makes you nervous. Today, someone's drawn a crude image, a soldier bending over a goat. Underneath Decimus from the 3rd Legion. You don't know him, but someone does. A few feet over, a quote from a philosopher, misquoted, but close enough. We are all shadows cast by firelight. It sticks with you. You add a mark, not words, just a symbol. A memory of someone, of something. 2 women stand nearby, whispering. One glances at you. You glance back. A moment, then gone. Gossip spreads faster than fire in Rome. You heard that a baker's wife was seen with a senator, that a priest drinks behind the temple, that your name was mentioned once in the wrong place. You keep walking, you keep quiet. But the wall remembers. A man in red arrives at your door. He holds a wax tablet. His face is forgettable. His voice is not. You, name, status, property. You answer, carefully. Your name, your occupation, no land, no slaves, just you, just your room. He scribbles with a stylus, doesn't look up. Parents, he asks. You hesitate. Your father is dead. Your mother's name doesn't matter. He checks something, nods, turns. You're nothing, just another mark on a census list. But if the numbers don't match, fines arrive. Or soldiers. Later that week, your neighbor is arrested. Tax evasion, or error. No one knows. He shouted something as they dragged him out. About Jupiter, about lies. You keep your head down after that. You hide a bit of coin in the wall. You clean your doorway. You rehearse your answers. Because they will come again. And Rome always counts. You're not inside the Colosseum, but you're close enough to hear it breathe. Stone arches loom above, casting long shadows as the sun rises higher. You push into the crowd gathered outside the walls, fruit sellers, pickpockets, poets shouting verses for coin. A blind man taps his stick near the steps. You stand still. Inside, a trumpet sounds. The first match begins. The roar is unlike anything. It ripples through your chest like thunder made of voices. You hear it, the thud of bodies, the clash of metal, the sudden, sharp silence after someone dies. You imagine the sand, stained and clotted. A woman near you whispers, "They say one's from Gaul. Killed 3 yesterday." She sounds impressed. You don't speak. You see a child on someone's shoulders, eyes wide, cheering. You look at your own hands, calloused, empty, gripping nothing. Later, when the gates open and the crowd pours out like wine from a cracked amphora, you catch a glimpse, a stretcher, a foot dangling, dust-coated. You don't know his name, but you remember the sound the crowd made when he fell. The air is different here. It smells of smoke, flowers, something ancient, the kind of scent that makes you stand straighter. You step through the archway into the circular temple. Columns surround you like silent watchers. In the center, the sacred flame flickers, never allowed to die. It casts warm light on stone and skin. The Vestal Virgins move slowly, purposefully. Their white robes trail behind, like mist. They don't speak. They barely glance at you. You feel out of place, loud, mortal. You whisper a prayer anyway, not to any specific god, just something. A wish for safety, for silence, for a little more bread next week. A woman near you drops a coin into the offering bowl. You drop half of one. A priest lights new incense. The smoke climbs like memory. Outside, the world is noise again. But for a moment inside this ring of stone and silence, it was only breath and fire. You can't sleep. The room is too hot, or too loud, or too full of thoughts. So you climb. The Aventine is quieter at night. Richer, too. Villas with gates, lanterns that don't flicker like yours. You keep to the edge of the path, feet light. You sit on a stone ledge looking down at the city. It glows. Not like modern lights, more like smoldering coals. Fires in braziers, lamps in windows, torches moving like stars on earth. Somewhere, a dog howls. Somewhere else, a woman laughs. You close your eyes. For a second, it feels like peace. Then, a group of young men stumble past, laughing too loudly. One throws a cup at a tree. Another sings off-key. You don't move. You're invisible. Eventually, they're gone. You stay. You watch the sky change. The stars here are faint, but still yours. And for just one breath, you feel taller than the emperor. Your landlord knocks. Not to chat, to collect? Rent's due, and taxes. And don't forget the bribe for the man who makes sure the inspector looks the other way. You hand him a small pouch. It's lighter than it should be. He weighs it with his hand, frowns, says nothing. Yet. Later, you visit a friend who works at the temple. Not a priest, a cleaner. He tells you about how the high priest bought his robe with gold, stolen from another city. Maybe true. Maybe not. But it sounds right. You stop at a crossroads and pour a drop of wine on a stone, an offering to the lyres, the local spirits. You whisper their names. You're not sure they listen, but you feel watched. Back home, you hide 2 coins under the floorboard. Not for food, for when the next bribe comes. It always does. You weren't born free. You remember the chain, the brand, the quiet moment stolen in the corner of someone else's kitchen. But that's the past. Now you're a freedman, a libertus. You wear a cap of wool on festival days. You have your own job, your own room, your own name mostly. But you're not a citizen. You can't vote. You can't serve in the Legion. You can't marry a citizen woman. Not yet. You watch a magistrate pass on the street. His sons follow behind, proud, soft-handed. You feel older than all of them. You've worked every day since your name was signed on that tablet of manumission. But no law has changed for you. Sometimes in the bath, someone still calls you by your old slave name. You don't respond, but you hear it, like a whisper underwater. You sleep that night thinking of your children, if you ever have them, and whether they'll carry the same weight. You've never been down there, but you smell it, always. Rome's sewers, the Cloaca Maxima, run beneath your feet like a second city one made of shadows and waste. You walk along the edge of the forum and catch a draft of it, warm, wet, ancient. A man nearby is lowering a bucket into a grate. For cleaning, he says, for the latrines and the baths. You look away, you breathe through your sleeve. Sometimes when it rains, the stench climbs. It creeps into homes, into food, into your clothes. It settles behind your teeth. The city's rich never smell it. Their homes are uphill where wind carries different scents. Roses, pine wax. But down here, you learn to live with it. You step over puddles that aren't water. You learn which alleys to avoid after noon. You wash your feet twice before bed and still wake up with the smell. You wonder who built the sewers. You wonder what else is down there. You wonder how long before the streets above collapse and the world below swallows you. You follow the smell of ink and damp parchment. The Argoletum roams book alley, winds between buildings like a river of words. Scribes sit behind tiny tables, heads bent, hands cramped. They copy by oil light, eyes red. A scroll catches your eye. The Aeneid, price more than your rent. You touch the edge. The seller raises an eyebrow. You walk away. Further down, a poet is reciting under an awning. 3 listeners, 1 sleeping. The poet doesn't mind. He keeps going. You find a stall with cheap epigrams, short, witty, dangerous. You buy one. You don't know why. Back home, you hide it under your mat. The words aren't yours, but they feel like they could be. You read them again after dark. They make you feel smart, or dangerous, or both. You whisper one out loud. It echoes in your empty room like it belonged to you all along. You didn't mean to be late. The streets were crowded. A cart overturned near the temple of Saturn, and your tunic tore just a little on a nail. But now you're here, sweating, breathless, in front of the magistrate. He doesn't look up. A scribe mutters your name. Someone laughs in the back. It's about a payment, a grain debt, or maybe a neighbor's complaint. The words blur. You nod when you're supposed to. The magistrate finally lifts his head. His face is blank, his hands soft. You explain. You think clearly, but your voice sounds small in the marble hall. He waves a hand. Dismissed or fined. You're not sure. Outside, someone pats your back. Could have been worse, they say. You smile. Kind of. But your stomach turns. The fine will eat this week's meat, maybe next week's bread. You walk home faster than usual, not because of fear, because of shame. You hear the trumpet first. Then come the cheers. The sound rolls down the street like thunder wrapped in silk. A cohort returns, not from war, just from the provinces. Their armor gleams, their standards flutter. They march like the ground belongs to them. Maybe it does. People throw flowers, coins. One woman lifts a child to wave. You watch. And then you see him. He used to live 2 doors down, thin, always coughing. Now he walks in bronze. His face is different, tighter, sharper. He sees you, nods, doesn't stop. You wonder how he got out, who he knew, what he had to do. Later you hear he got land in Gaul, a pension, a wife. You go back to your room and close the shutters. The cheers echo anyway. It starts as a whisper. She's gone. No one says her name. No one needs to. You remember her small, quiet fast. She carried water to the baker. She never smiled, not once. Now she's missing. The streets buzz. Some say she fled to Ostia. Others say she jumped in the Tiber. The baker says nothing, but his hands shake when he kneads the dough. That night, 2 men in armor pass your door, asking questions, faces blank, knuckles bruised. You say you don't know her. You don't. You think of the time she dropped a jar, how the baker slapped her, how she didn't cry. And now she's gone. No one celebrates. No one searches. The silence is thicker than blood. You wake up to noise, not the usual kind. This is laughter song shouting. It's Saturnalia, the 1 week a year when the world flips. Slaves wear their masters' clothes. Dice games spill into alleys. Rules vanish. Wine flows like rain. You step into the street and nearly trip over a drunk senator, or maybe just someone pretending to be one. He raises a cup to you. Hail Saturn, you nod. You don't smile. Children throw nuts at passing carts. Someone has painted a statue of Mars with makeup. You don't look too closely. At a banquet down the street, slaves are seated at the head of the table. Their masters serve them food. You know it's symbolic. Tomorrow, chains return. But today, it's different. You sip watered wine stolen from a barrel left open in the square. Sweet, warm, unsettling. A man dances with a goat. A girl recites poetry to a chicken. You laugh once, quietly. Later, as night falls and the torches flicker, you sit alone near the fountain. The noise echoes, but it no longer feels joyful. You wonder if freedom ever felt real, or just theatrical. Like Saturnalia, the poet stands on a box. He's thin, too thin. His robe is stained with wine, his sandals don't match. But his voice clear, measured, soft as velvet stretched over broken glass. You pause. Venus weeps in silence, he says. Not because of war, but because of hunger. Someone scoffs. Someone tosses a fig. He doesn't flinch. You step closer. He reads from a scroll, words inked by his own hand. He talks of emperors, of courtesans, of stray dogs, and broken laws, of gods who no longer listen. Children laugh. A merchant shakes his head. But you stay. Then 2 guards approach. One tears the scroll. Another grabs the poet's arm. He doesn't resist. Improper content, they say. He disappears into the alley with them. No blood, no screaming, just silence. The box remains. You step forward, place your hand on the splintered wood. For one moment you feel what he felt. Truth. And how quickly it burns. You wear it under your tunic. Small, bronze, a face maybe Egyptian, maybe older. A friend gave it to you, said it brought luck. Today it brings a problem. A patrol stops you near the aqueduct. Routine, they say, but their eyes search you like wolves. One asks questions. Another finds the cord around your neck. What's this? You say nothing. You shouldn't have to. It's foreign, it's magic, it's dangerous. You say it's a charm, just a gift. They say it's suspicious. One soldier wants to break it, the other wants to keep it. You stand there, heart-thudding sweat sliding down your back. They let you go, but they take the amulet. You don't fight. You walk home faster than usual. The cord still hangs around your neck, but it's empty now. That night, your dreams feel different, colder, older, like something's watching, not angry. Just gone. You needed the work. So you said yes. They give you a chisel, a block of stone, a place to stand under the noon sun. The foreman shouts. Dust fills the air. You shape rock into form over and over until your arms hum with pain. The aqueduct stretches like a spine across the hills, massive, ancient, alive. You haul buckets, stack bricks, smooth rough edges with fingers already bleeding. You work beside men with accents you can't place from Africa, Gaul the East. None of you speak much. All of you sweat the same. At midday, someone shares a crust of bread. You chew slowly, watching birds circle above. The foreman says the water will run next week, that it'll change everything. You believe him? For a moment. It starts with a candle. You see it flicker beneath the grate, long after sundown. You follow. The entrance is hidden behind a broken statue overgrown with moss. A man stands guard. He looks at you, says nothing, moves aside. You descend. The air is cool, wet, heavy with silence. In the catacombs, shadows live where names are buried. Skulls line the walls, bones fill corners, and yet, it feels sacred. A group sits in a circle, not praying loud, just whispering. Words you don't know, symbols traced on stone with fingers. They pass bread, wine, broken pieces, no gold, no altars. One woman sees you, smiles. Her eyes are tired, warm. You stay for a moment, just one. Then you leave. Back in the street, the world is louder, rougher, realer. But under your breath, you repeat what you heard. Love one another. And wonder what it costs to believe in peace. You wake to silence. Not the peaceful kind, the strange kind, the kind that makes your body tense before your eyes even open. You lie still, the blanket tangled around your legs, the straw mat under you, suddenly too rough, too cold. Then it happens. The first tremor is soft, a ripple through the stone beneath you, like something ancient shifting in its sleep. You sit up. Dust falls from the ceiling. The candle stub near the wall topples. Then the second wave hits. This one is louder. The walls groan. You hear a distant crash, pottery maybe, or a wooden shutter breaking loose. A child screams somewhere nearby. Footsteps pound the hallway outside your door. You throw on your tunic and rush into the street. You're not alone. The alley is full of neighbors half-dressed barefoot, blinking against the morning light. An old man clutches a statue of Mercury. A woman holds her baby so tight the child can't breathe. You all stand there together silent, watching the earth move beneath your feet, like it's breathing. It passes, slowly, like a tide receding. But something's changed. You walk, not run, toward the Forum. Others do the same. No one speaks. The city looks bruised. A crack snakes across the facade of a temple. A column leans a little too far to the left. Pigeons circle overhead, confused. In the Forum, statues lie face down. One is broken at the neck. You don't know which god it was. People begin to talk. Was it Vulcan? Angry from the depths? Was it a sign from Jupiter? Or maybe a punishment? Someone blames the Christians. Someone else blames the Senate. You say nothing. At the center of the Forum, a marble arch has collapsed. Underneath it, the corner of a sandal sticks out from the rubble. Just one. Nobody moves to clear it. The prefect arrives on horseback. His voice is loud, rehearsed. No damage to the aqueducts, all temples secure. Citizens should return to their homes. He doesn't dismount. He doesn't look anyone in the eye. You return slowly. Your insula still stands. One wall has a new crack wide enough for light to slip through. Inside, your stool has fallen, your jug of water spilled, your neighbor's shelf crushed a cat. You sit on the floor, back against the wall, knees drawn in. You stare at your hands for a long time. They're shaking. You try to remember the last time the earth moved like this. Was it during your childhood? Or is your memory stitching together fragments of fear? Night comes. The city is restless. People light candles and don't blow them out. Doors are left open. Prayers rise like smoke through the alleys, some to gods, with names, others to anything listening. You sleep poorly. Each creak of wood, each groan of stone makes your heart lurch. You dream of marble breaking of statues, falling of streets splitting open to reveal something dark, pulsing and older than Rome itself. But morning comes, and the city breathes again. Markets reopen, children laugh. A priest paints over a crack in a temple wall. The statue's head is replaced. Life pretends it was never interrupted. But you know. And under your feet, the ground remembers. You're not supposed to be out this early. The sun isn't fully up yet. The streets are still wet with the last of the night's humidity. But you needed water. The neighbor's boy used more than his share again, and the public fountain opens at dawn. You walk fast. The strap of your jug cuts into your palm. Your sandals slap softly against the stones, echoing off the narrow walls. The city is quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you feel like the last person alive. Then you hear it, a growl. At first you think it's your imagination, but it's there again, low, throaty close. You turn a corner and freeze. It's a dog. Not a pet, not the kind that follows vendors hoping for scraps. This one is alone. Its fur is matted tail stiff, eyes wide and pale. One ear is torn. Flies circle its back legs. It's thin enough for ribs to show. You hold still. You know how this works. If you run, it chases. If you scream, it bites. You take a slow step back, and it lunges. It happens fast. A flash of fur, a snap of jaws, pain in your leg like a firebrand pressed to skin. You fall back hard, hands scraping the stone. The dog darts off tail low, vanishing down a side alley. You sit there breathing like you've just run a mile. Then you look at your leg. 2 puncture marks, deep, red already, the skin around them swelling. Your hand trembles as you touch them. Warm, throbbing, bleeding. There's no hospital to go to. No doctor on every corner. Just what you know and what others say. You wash the wound in the fountain, cold water that doesn't sting nearly enough. You wrap your leg in a strip torn from your tunic and limp home. By mid-morning, the pain sharpens. It pulses like a second heartbeat. Your neighbor sees your limp and asks. You tell him. He goes quiet. You need garlic, he says. Mash it. Mix with vinegar. Pray it wasn't foaming. You nod. You don't know what else to do. You try the garlic. The vinegar burns. You apply it again. And again. The next day you wake drenched in sweat. Not from fever, from fear. You've heard stories. Dogs that bite once, then vanish. People who seem fine, for days. Then the shaking starts. The thirst, the rage. You sip water, slowly testing. Your throat accepts it. Your mind races. That afternoon, you go to the temple of Asclepius. Not for healing, for comfort. You kneel. You light a candle. The priest places a hand on your head and murmurs something that sounds older than the gods themselves. You feel no different afterward, but you say thank you anyway. For 3 days, you watch your reflection in the wash basin. Do your eyes look wild? Is your skin too warm? Your mouth too dry? You see movement in every corner. You hear distant growls that may not exist. You smell your own fear. And yet, nothing happens. Not yet. On the 4th day, a woman in the market asks why you're limping. You tell her. She recoils, crosses herself. Stay away from the bath, she says, just in case. You obey. That night, you don't sleep. You listen, not for dogs, but for your own breath, counting the seconds between each one, afraid they'll stop or change or catch fire from within. By morning, you're still alive, still thirsty, still you. A week passes, then another. The wound scabs over, heals poorly, but it heals. You keep expecting madness. You keep waiting for the scream to rise in your throat unbidden, but it doesn't. Still, every dog you see makes you flinch. Every night you dream of teeth. You've survived. Probably, but you will never forget the bite. And you will never again trust silence on a morning street. It starts with a knock. Not on your door, on his. The man in the room across from yours, the one who never says much, who comes and goes at odd hours, who always seems to be listening, even when no one is speaking. You don't even know his name. People call him the quiet one. You call him nothing at all. The knock isn't loud, just 2 short raps, then silence. You peer through the cracked wooden shutters and see a man in uniform, not a soldier, not quite, but someone with a scroll tucked into his belt and a sword that's never drawn. They speak too softly to hear. The door shuts. The street goes back to stillness. You should forget about it. But you don't. Later that day, you're sitting near the stairwell, mending your sandal with a borrowed awl, when the quiet one passes by. He glances at you. You nod. He doesn't return it. His hands are empty, but his eyes are too busy. That evening, he's at the fountain, standing too long, saying nothing, just watching. He stares not at the water, but at the people. You've seen enough to feel uneasy. You've lived long enough to recognize that silence can be loud. That night, a conversation breaks out downstairs. The baker is angry, says someone reported his flour hoard. 3 days of grain gone, he shouts. Confiscated, his wife sobs. No one comforts her. Everyone listens. You look at the man across the hall. His shutters are closed. The next morning, someone is missing. The young boy from the alley, the one who used to draw rude pictures on walls and shout slogans about corrupt senators. He's just gone. His mother says nothing, just scrubs her threshold like it's coated in guilt. The quiet man still doesn't speak, but now people nod to him more often. Step aside, offer him fruit without asking. Not out of kindness, out of something colder. You begin to wonder what you've said lately, to whom, in whose presence. You remember a joke you made, barely a joke about tax collectors. You said it near the baths. You didn't see who heard. You replay your words at night, trying to measure them like coin. Were they light enough? Forgettable enough? The quiet man passes your door more often now, always with something new in his tunic, a folded parchment, a scrap of seal wax. You stop trying to meet his eye. One day you return from the market to find your door ajar. Nothing's missing, but your scroll, your favorite scroll with the poems about stars and longing, has been moved. You know because you're the only one who touches it. You sit very still. The city keeps going. The baker rebuilds. The boy is not mentioned again, and the quiet one begins to smile thin-lipped, tired smiles that say nothing at all. You change. You stop speaking freely. You answer with shrugs. You agree more often. You laugh less. You stop writing your own verses. You sweep your room more often. You leave coins near your door, just in case someone is watching for signs of virtue. One night you walk past his door. It's open a crack. Inside you glimpse a table with ink, a wax tablet, a list of names. Yours is not on it. Not yet. You don't sleep that night. But you start writing again. Small things, careful things, fiction, riddles, allegories. Nothing seditious, nothing personal. Just enough to remind yourself that you still exist. And then one morning he's gone. No warning, no farewell. His room is bare, the mattress still warm. No one says anything. You ask the landlord what happened. He shrugs, says the man was reassigned, or vanished, or both. That's how Rome works, he adds, picking his teeth with a chicken bone. One day they smile, the next they don't. You nod. You return to your room. And for the first time in weeks, you close your eyes, not in fear, but in wonder. Because even though he's gone, you know the city is full of others like him, listening, writing, remembering. You say nothing, but you never forget the sound of that first knock. The day begins like any other. You wake to the sound of a cart rolling unevenly across cobblestones, its wheels groaning under the weight of amphorae. Your joints ache. You slept poorly. The neighbor's child had night terrors again, and the wall between your rooms is more cracked than plaster. You pull on your sandals and step out into the warm morning haze. Rome is alive, as always, a low hum of shouting merchants, barking dogs, and distant metalwork. You walk with no real destination, just movement, just a need to breathe somewhere less confined than your insula's stairwell. You end up near the Basilica Julia, where legal cases are argued and fortunes shift. You've never had cause to go inside. The law, like the gods, rarely concerns itself with people like you. But today, something stops you. You hear voices not raised, not angry, but urgent. Sharp like flint scraping flint. You follow instinct, not thought, and duck into the side of a marble colonnade. You press your back to the cool stone and listen. 20 denarii, one voice whispers. Now, the rest after the verdict. Too public, another responds. Wait until dusk. A pause. A cough. Then you forget who I am. A figure steps into partial view. His toga is bright white, bordered with the deep purple stripe of a senator. You don't recognize him, but that means little. They blur together, these men of words and wealth. The other figure is shorter, hooded, bare arms tanned and scarred. A contractor, perhaps, or a fixer. He pulls a pouch from his cloak, the soft clink unmistakable. It lands in the senator's palm, quickly pocketed. You hold your breath. They part without shaking hands. One disappears toward the forum. The other melts into a shadowed alley behind the curia. You stay still for a long time. You shouldn't have seen that. You know it. Later, as you return home, the city feels different. Not louder, not busier, but heavier. Like it's leaning inward, breathing secrets down your neck. You say nothing, but now you see things. Or maybe you've always seen them and never noticed. A baker gives a full loaf to a man who never pays. A city clerk leaves a scroll unfinished when a woman passes by, then picks it up again after she's gone. A merchant displays rotten fruit only to certain customers, but offers fresh figs to others depending on the tilt of their chin. Everyone is negotiating, always. That night, you lie on your mat and stare at the ceiling. There's a crack in the plaster shaped like a fish. You trace it with your eyes. You think about the senator's hands, manicured clean, yet quick to grab that pouch. You wonder, did he used to be like you? Did he once walk the streets with dust in his hair and blisters on his palms? Probably not. You dream of coins, not falling, but floating, spinning slowly in the air, always out of reach. In the days that follow, you find yourself near the basilica more often. Not on purpose, not consciously, but your feet take you there. You never see the senator again, but once you spot the hooded man. He walks past you without pause. You feel your fingers tighten. You don't speak. You begin to pay attention to where shadows fall in public spaces, to who stands where, who speaks, and who watches. A friend tells you he's trying to get a case heard by the magistrate, a small land dispute. He's been waiting months. You say nothing, but inside, you already know how it will end. You try to forget what you saw. You fail. Eventually, the city provides distraction. A fire in Trastevere, a new statue in the Forum, rumors of plague in the east. Everyone's talking again, and for a while, it feels like things are normal. But sometimes when you see a man in a fine toga, you wonder what's hidden in the folds. And when someone knocks too confidently at a door, you wonder what promises ride behind the knock. And when you feel cheated by the market, by the law, by the very stone beneath your feet, you no longer ask why. You already know. It happens before sunrise. You're standing outside the bakery, waiting for your turn. The line is already long. The scent of baking bread seeps out from under the clay roof, curling through the air like a promise. Your stomach growls quietly. Then the shouting starts. Not the usual kind. Not a customer arguing over a half-burned loaf or a child stealing crust. This shout is different, sharp, final. You step away from the line. Others do too. Some stay, pretending not to hear. In the doorway of the bakery stands the baker's wife. Her hands are shaking, dusted in flour. Her mouth is open, but no sound comes out. Her apron is damp from water or sweat or something else entirely. In front of her, two men in red. Not soldiers? Not exactly. Recruits from the conscription office. Clean tunics, blank eyes. They say his name again. Her son steps out from behind the ovens. He's barely 17. You've seen him carry sacks of grain heavier than himself. Stack trays laugh too loudly. His left hand is always bandaged, burned long ago. He doesn't argue. He wipes his hands on his tunic and nods. His mother crumples silently. The officials give him a rolled scroll and a stamped token. Report by noon, they say. Southgate. He doesn't cry, doesn't speak, just meets your eyes for a moment, only a moment before turning to gather his few things. The line at the bakery reforms. People shuffle forward. Bread must still be bought. Life doesn't pause, not even for departure. You wait for your turn. When you reach the counter, the mother has returned. Her eyes are red. She doesn't meet yours. You buy your bread. You say nothing. But that evening, you walk by the south gate. Not because you were told to, because you had to. You find him standing with others, boys mostly, some nervous, some proud, a few joking too loudly. One is throwing pebbles at a post. Another is already drunk. The baker's son stands still, scroll in hand, staring at nothing. A soldier barks orders. The boys line up. Their names are read. Their feet shuffle. Their futures leave one breath at a time. You watch from a distance, hidden behind a fig cart. You know you shouldn't be here. You stay anyway. When his name is called, he steps forward. He doesn't stumble. He doesn't flinch. They give him a new tunic, a belt, a dull blade. The last thing he owns, a small wooden charm shaped like a crescent moon, he ties to the hilt. Then they march. Dust rises behind them. Their sandals hit the stone in rhythm, untrained, uneven, but together, like a song that hasn't found its tune. You stand there long after they vanish from sight. The street grows quiet. Merchants pack up their stalls. A dog whines. Someone sneezes. And you think about all the things the boy won't do anymore. Stoke the fire, burn his hands, whistle out of tune, sneak bites of honeyed crust. The bakery reopens the next morning. His mother works alone. The bread is heavier. You wake to the smell of smoke. It's faint at first, a suggestion more than a warning. Charcoal, oil, old wood. You think maybe someone's fire has gone too high. Maybe someone fell asleep, drunk, left a lamp burning. Then the shouting begins. You pull on your tunic and run barefoot into the alley. Others are already outside, staring toward the ridge behind the insulae, where the temple district begins. The sky is glowing. Not like dawn. This light is red, angry, pulsing a second sun that should not be there. You join the stream of bodies heading uphill. No one speaks. There's nothing to say. The fire is saying everything. When you reach the plaza, it's chaos. The temple of Cybele, the one with the painted lions and gold-plated roof tiles, is burning. Flames leap from beam to beam, devouring the wooden supports. The stone facade glows orange, cracked like pottery in a kiln. Ash falls like black snow. You blink and it's in your eyes, your mouth, your hair. Priests are on their knees. One beats his chest. Another pours oil onto the steps, mumbling something frantic. You don't understand the words, but you understand the rhythm loss. A bucket line has formed. It's hopeless. The cistern nearby is nearly dry, and what little water is passed hand to hand never reaches the blaze. People shout names of friends of gods of no one. The statue of the goddess still stands high above the altar. Her painted eyes look out over the crowd, unmoving, uncaring. Then, without warning, the roof collapses. The sound is wrong, not a crash but a howl. Wood, bronze tile, and air all scream at once. The crowd stumbles backward. Someone pushes you. You fall. Your knees scrape stone, but you feel nothing. When you look up, the goddess is gone. Smoke now rules the sky. You sit there for a long time, knees folded ash, covering your legs like dust on an unused scroll. You watch the fire eat memory, devour belief, turn history into cinders. Beside you, a boy is crying, not loudly, not for attention, just one soft, endless sob, like he's exhaling everything he's ever believed. A woman places her hand on his shoulder. She says nothing. A priest approaches the crowd, face streaked with soot. He raises both arms and cries, "This is not the end." But even he sounds uncertain. Eventually, the flames settle into embers. The crowd thins. Morning light begins to mix with smoke. The sky turns pale, as if embarrassed. You walk home slowly. The streets are quieter than usual. No carts, no hawkers, just the sound of ash crunching underfoot. You smell like smoke for days. Even after washing, you don't pray that week. Not because you don't believe, but because you don't know who's still listening. Later, someone says it was lightning. Others whisper about vengeance, a stolen offering, a jealous god. One man swears he saw a shadow run from the temple just before the flames. Another says it was an accident. Oil spilled, a dropped lamp. No one knows. But everyone decides what to believe. And every time you pass the blackened ruins, you try not to look up. Because you're afraid the goddess is still there, watching. You weren't planning to go. You told yourself that more than once. On the way there, while waiting in the alley, even as your hand reached out for the worn wooden door. You told yourself it was curiosity, just curiosity. Everyone talks about these places, the paintings on the walls, the soft hands, the incense. And besides, it's part of Rome. Everyone goes at least once. The door creaks open before you knock. A woman stands there older than you expected, draped in faded silk. Her eyes flick from your face to your feet. She says nothing, just steps aside. You enter. The air is heavy, warm, scented with something sweet and smoky like burned honey mixed with oil. It sticks in your nose, clings to your skin. The walls are painted crude murals of gods and mortals twisted together in poses you've only heard about in half-whispered jokes. In the corners, candles drip wax onto cracked tiles. Shadows flicker across curtains that never fully close. A man brushes past you, eyes glazed. A woman follows him, smiling faintly. You can't tell if it's for him or for the room. Someone offers you wine. You take it. It's warm, watered down. Tastes like metal. You sit. You try to look casual, as if you've done this before. As if this is normal. As if your heart isn't thudding in your throat. Then she appears. Not the woman from the door. Another, younger. Maybe your age. Maybe younger. Her smile is practiced. Her walk slow. She sits beside you without asking. "You're new," she says. You don't answer. She doesn't mind. Her name isn't real. You both know that. Neither is the perfume on her neck or the pearl earring with the crack in it. But her hand is real, resting lightly on your arm. Her voice is soft, like someone telling you a story you've already heard but want to hear again. She asks your name. You lie. She asks where you're from. You lie again. She leans closer. Her breath smells of mint and vinegar. You say yes. Later in the room, the ceiling is low. The mattress is stuffed with straw. There are stains on the walls that no one's tried to clean. A small lamp flickers in a clay dish. She undresses without ceremony. You do too clumsily. It doesn't feel like a dream, or a fantasy, or even lust. It feels mechanical, like a job half done before it begins. She touches your chest. You shiver. She laughs not cruelly, but like someone tired of pretending. It's always like this the first time, she says. When it's over, you lie there too long. She doesn't rush you, but eventually she stands, dresses, and leaves. No kiss. No name. Just the sound of bare feet on tile. You dress. The room smells of sweat and melted wax. You leave a coin. You don't know how much is appropriate. You give what you have. Back in the alley, the air is colder. You walk home through narrow streets past closed stalls and sleeping dogs. You pass a woman cleaning fish under a torch. She doesn't look up. At home, you lie on your mat and stare at the ceiling. You don't feel older. You don't feel wiser. You just feel quiet. In the morning, you find wax on your elbow. You don't know how it got there. You wash it off with cold water. It doesn't come off completely. You leave it there. The Appian Way always looks beautiful at first. It stretches out like a promise, wide, straight, ancient, paved with worn stones that shine in the sunlight like melted silver, flanked by cypress trees, tombs, and the occasional statue too weathered to recognize. You walk it in the afternoon when the market is finished, and you've traded a borrowed knife for a small sack of barley. It's tied at your waist, swinging gently with each step. You feel good. You feel lucky. Then you see them. Two men walking too slowly to be travelers, too confidently to be strangers. You tell yourself they're just passers-by. You shift your pace. You look down, but you hear their steps adjust to yours, not too close, not too far, just enough to keep you aware. The road narrows between two crumbling mausoleums. Shadows fall across the path. That's when it happens. One stands in front of you. The other, behind you, don't even hear the knife unsheathed. Just feel the cold pressure at your ribs. No screaming, the one in front says. You weren't planning to. Your hands rise without command. Your breath shortens. Your heart, though, beats like a drum in a parade, too loud, too fast, too rhythmic to be ignored. The man behind you tugs at your belt. The barley spills. You hear the grains scatter like coins. Then fingers dig into your tunic, pulling at seams, searching. They find 2 coins, a thin silver ring, and the tiny leather charm your sister gave you before she left for the provinces. You want to beg for it back, but you don't. The man in front leans closer. His breath smells like onions and old wine. His eyes are dull, professional, not angry, not afraid. You live nearby, he asks. You say nothing. He shrugs. Good, no reason to follow. They're gone before you can lower your hands. The road is empty again. You stand there a long time. You pick up what's left of the barley. Not much. Your hands shake. A crow calls from a tree. You walk slowly. The sun feels colder now. When you reach the city gate, the guard doesn't even glance at you. You must look like everyone else, dusty, tired, harmless. At home, your neighbor asks what happened. You lie. Drop the pouch, you say. Didn't tie it well. He nods. Doesn't believe you. Doesn't press. That night, you run your fingers over your ribs, where the knife pressed. There's no cut, but you feel something like bruised skin, or a memory that won't settle. You dream of walking that road again. In the dream, the trees whisper. The tombs lean closer. You hear the same voice, no screaming. You wake before the blade touches you. In the morning, you avoid the Appian Way. Even when it's faster, even when you need to go south. You take side streets now, dirt paths, detours. And whenever someone walks behind you, you listen to their footsteps more than your own. You don't remember why you stopped. Maybe it was the sound of his voice, calm, firm, without decoration. Maybe it was the ring of students seated on broken columns, listening without fidgeting. Maybe it was the way the light caught on the folds of his robe, simple but clean, stoic white against the shadow of the Colosseum. You'd passed this plaza 100 times, but never stayed. This time, you sit. He doesn't speak like the market criers or the bathhouse braggarts. He doesn't wave his hands or pound his chest. He just speaks, and everyone listens. What is freedom? He asks if your peace depends on what others do. No one answers. He waits, not impatiently, just quietly, as if silence too is part of the lesson. Then he smiles barely. A man with nothing to protect can walk through fire, he says, but a man with everything will flinch at a breeze. You think about that. You think about your single room, your cracked jug, your hoarded coin, the little clay figurine of Mercury tucked under your mat. What would you flinch at? The philosopher continues. His words are like water over stones, soft, slow, carving truth with patience. He speaks of pain, Not how to avoid it, but how to let it pass through. Like rain, like hunger, like memory. Fear, he says, is a slave's collar, but it only tightens when you pull away. You don't understand all of it, not yet, but something sinks in. You watch his face as he speaks. It is lined, sun-darkened, but not tired. There's no performance in it, no arrogance, just calm. You wonder where he sleeps, what he eats, whether he once shouted like a soldier or wept like a child, whether this wisdom cost him something he'll never name. When the sun shifts and shadows lengthen, the crowd disperses. Some nod, some say thanks. One leaves a coin. You stay behind. He notices. You have a question, he says. You don't deny it. Why does it all feel heavy, you ask? He nods. Because you think it should feel light. That's all he says. You nod back. You stand, you leave. But something follows you home. Not his words exactly, but the space they left behind. That night, you sit by the window, long after dark. You don't light a candle. You listen to the city, breathe the dogs, the drunks, the carts creaking in late delivery. And you whisper fear is a slave's collar to no one. The next day you return. The plaza is empty. No teacher, no circle of listeners. Only a scrap of wax tablet stepped on, and broken with 2 words etched faintly. Still here. It starts with a dull ache. You think it's just from chewing too fast, or biting into bread that's too hard. The kind the baker sells at the end of the day, crust like stone, the inside dry and gray. But by nightfall, the ache sharpens. You press your tongue against the molar, feel it pulse. The gum around it is swollen warm. There's a strange taste in your mouth, metal bitter sour. You sleep poorly. Every time you turn, it flares. By morning, the pain shoots into your jaw, your ear, your temple. You try not to think about it. At the fountain, you ask an old woman, the one who sells herbs, from a basket woven with copper wire. She peers into your mouth with the squint of someone who's seen too many bad endings. She gives you clove, says to chew it slowly. Pray it's not rotting, she adds. You do. It numbs the pain, a little. Enough to get through the morning. But not enough to eat. You skip breakfast, sip broth by mid-afternoon. By sunset, your stomach aches from hunger almost as much as your mouth. You visit the baths, hoping the steam will help. It doesn't. The heat throbs against your jaw like hammer blows. A man in the caldarium tells you to rinse with wine. Another suggests ash from burnt fig leaves. A third says, there's a man, not a physician, not officially, who can pull teeth, but only at night, and only if you pay in advance. You consider it, but something about the way he says pull makes your spine tighten. You return home instead. You spit blood into a cracked bowl and watch the color bloom like ink in water. That night, the tooth moves. You don't mean to do it. Your tongue presses against it instinctively, and it shifts just slightly, but enough. Your breath catches, not in pain, but in fear. In Rome, there is no dentist, no chair with leather straps, no sterile tools. There is oil, there is wine. There are hooks made for fish, but used for flesh. You don't want any of that, so you wait. Another day, another night. By the 3rd day, the pain is your shadow. You can't speak clearly, can't smile. The smallest breeze across your face feels like winter. And then just after dawn it happens. You're eating nothing, just sitting half asleep. You shift your jaw, and the tooth comes loose. Not fully. It dangles. You don't scream. You reach in, slowly, fingers trembling. You pinch it between thumb and forefinger. Tug. It resists, then releases. The pain is sharp, immediate, a gasp of red that fades quickly, then just empty. You hold it in your palm, small, brown at the root. It doesn't look like it belonged in your body. You rinse your mouth with water until the bleeding slows. You place the tooth in a folded cloth and set it near your bed. You don't know why. Maybe as proof, maybe as mourning. The next day, your jaw feels better. Sore but manageable? You eat soft figs, warm broth, a bit of mashed lentil. You speak slowly, but your smile is crooked now. You feel it every time you chew, a gap, an absence, a flaw. Some say Romans are proud of their teeth, that a healthy mouth means a healthy soul, that gods notice when mortals rot from the inside. You don't believe that, but you still check the mirror shard by the window, just once. The missing tooth isn't visible when you don't speak, but you feel it when you're alone. You keep the tooth for a while, then one morning you throw it into the Tiber. No ceremony, just the soft plop of something that used to be you sinking into the gray. It starts innocently. A man at the market compliments your sandals, says they're sturdy, asks where you got them. You laugh, say you made the straps yourself. He nods with appreciation. The next day he appears again, this time near the olive cellar, asks how you like the figs. You tell him they were sweet but overripe. He grins, offers you better ones, free. You don't take them. On the third day, he joins you on a walk down the Tiber. You don't remember inviting him, but he speaks softly like an old friend. Tells you stories about stars, about gods older than Jupiter, about hidden truths buried in plain sight. You listen, out of politeness at first, then curiosity. One night he finds you near the baths. The sky is dark, the moon half shy. He leans in and says, "You look like someone who's ready." You laugh. Ready for what? He doesn't answer directly. Just hands you a small disc, smooth cool, etched with a symbol you don't recognize. A triangle inside a circle. Around it, faint Latin veritas occulta, hidden truth. He says there's a gathering, not far, just past the Temple of Minerva. Midnight, no obligations, just listen. You go home and stare at the token. It weighs almost nothing but feels heavy in your palm. You tell yourself you won't go. But when the hour arrives, your feet move without instruction. The streets are quiet, lamps flicker low. Dogs howl in the distance. You find the alley, a narrow slit between two abandoned shops. At the end, a door, wooden, unmarked, slightly ajar. You step inside. The room is lit by a dozen candles arranged in a spiral. Around them, figures in cloaks sit cross-legged heads bowed. No one speaks. You stand there unsure. Then the man, the one from the market, gestures to an empty space beside him. You sit. The air is thick with herbs, bitter, earthy. Something burns slowly in a clay bowl. The scent is unfamiliar, but not unpleasant. A woman speaks. Not loud, not commanding, but with a rhythm that wraps around your thoughts like a vine. She speaks of Rome, of masks, of chains disguised as laws, of light behind the veil. You don't understand it all, but some part of you leans forward. They chant a single word, novus. New, over and over. You don't join in, but you don't leave. After a time, minutes, hours, they rise. One by one, they touch the central flame with their fingertips. Some wince, some smile. You're offered the same, you hesitate. Then you press your index finger into the flame. It doesn't burn. Not quite. Just a sting, a reminder. You walk home in silence, token still in hand. You sleep deeply that night. No dreams. The next morning, the token is gone. You check the floor. The folds of your tunic, nothing. You wonder if it was taken, or if it was never real. You see the man again once across the forum. He doesn't wave. He doesn't speak, but he smiles. And you feel something shift in your chest. Not fear, not guilt, just awareness. You never go back, but sometimes, in the quiet moments before sleep, you whisper novus to yourself. And wonder what would have happened if you'd stayed. It begins with a knock. Not urgent, just official. 2 short raps on wood followed by the familiar clearing of a throat, the bureaucrat's calling card. You open the door to find a young man in a city-issued tunic. His belt bears the symbol of the census office, a bundle of rods wrapped in red cord. Not a lictor, not a soldier, but not someone you can ignore. He doesn't ask if you're home. He already knows. Scroll in hand, he reads your name aloud, almost. He mispronounces the last syllable. You correct him. He nods uninterested. Confirm residence, he says. You do. Occupation. You say it clearly. Stonecutter's assistant. He hesitates. Last census listed you as a grain laborer. That was 3 years ago, you explain. I changed. He doesn't look up. Did you file a change of trade? You blink. I wasn't told to. He makes a mark on the scroll. You don't know if it's a correction or a judgment. He continues. Dependents. None. Property owned. None. He tilts his head. But your father once held 2 fields in Etruria. That was sold, before he died. He doesn't nod this time, just stares, as if your answer isn't satisfactory. He rolls up the scroll. Expect a verification notice. Then he leaves. You close the door slowly. Verification notice. It arrives 5 days later, a wax tablet slipped under your door. The inscription is Blunt Identity Conflict. Report to the record office within 3 days. You go on the 2nd. The office smells like ink oil and dust. Shelves groan under the weight of scrolls. Scribes mutter numbers. Clerks shuffle, all wearing the same expression, tired, precise, indifferent. You're sent to desk 7. A man greets you without greeting. He reads your name. Again mispronounced. Again you correct him. He raises an eyebrow. You don't match the record, he says. What part, you ask? He flips a page. Age, occupation, parentage. Also, your tax band doesn't align. You explain. Slowly, factually. He listens, or pretends to. Then says, do you have documentation? I didn't know I needed any. He exhales through his nose. Without proof, we must assume the record is correct. But it isn't. He shrugs. It's written. You don't yell. You don't plead. But inside, your breath tightens. What happens now, you ask? He unrolls a scroll. You may file a claim. It will be reviewed by a magistrate. Processing time is approximately 6 months, possibly more. During that time, you will be registered as a duplicate. A duplicate of who? He glances at the next name on the scroll. A man from Hispania. Similar name. Older than you. Has 5 dependents. That's not me. But it is your record. You sit in stunned silence. Later outside, you stare at the people walking past vendors, mothers, children, slaves, all moving through Rome with names that may or may not match their records. You wonder how many of them don't officially exist. That evening, you gather what little you can, scraps of old letters, a faded rental contract, a broken seal from your old job. It feels like presenting feathers to prove you're a bird. You submit your claim. They stamp it with wax and send you home. Weeks pass. You receive a summons for a grain tax meant for a man with 5 dependents. You write an appeal. It's ignored. Your neighbor hears you're a fraud and stops speaking to you. You lose work. The stonemason doesn't want trouble. You stop correcting people when they say your name wrong. Eventually, you stop using it. You survive, quietly, lightly. And some nights, when you walk past the record office, you imagine your scroll buried somewhere among 1,000 others, misfilled, mislabeled, unread. Still wrong. Still law. It's just another morning, until it isn't. The day starts warm, ordinary. The sky is clear, the light gentle. You walk toward the market with a handful of coins, thinking only about figs, or bread, or whether the seller will be in a good mood today. Then someone screams. You stop, turn, scan the street. Nothing's wrong, yet. A boy points upward, his mouth open. You follow his finger. The sun is wrong. Not gone, just different. Dimmer, cooler. The shadows on the stones have softened, blurred. The light has lost its gold. You squint. There's a shape, a curve. A black bite taken out of the sun's edge. Slow, smooth, too perfect to be a cloud. People begin to gather. No one speaks at first, just stares. Then come the murmurs. It's an omen. Jupiter is closing his eye. No, it's the end. The gods are at war. You stand among them, heart quickening. The light fades further. The temperature drops. Birds grow silent. A dog lies down and whines. Someone starts crying. A priest from the temple of Mars pushes through the crowd holding a bowl of smoke. He shouts prayers, throws salt over his shoulder, then begins to chant. Others join. The chant is low trembling. No rhythm, no melody, just desperation shaped into syllables. The sun darkens more. Shadows twist. Faces blur. A baby screams. A man kneels. Another runs. You don't know why. A merchant overturns his own cart, scattering fruit across the street. The gods demand offering, he yells. Take what you want. No one stops him. The darkness deepens. The sun is now a ring glowing, burning around a hole that seems too large for the sky. People are praying now, loudly, urgently, in Latin, in Greek, in whispers and sobs and shouts. You feel small. You feel cold. You feel something crawling up your spine. Not a hand, not a breeze, but a question. What if this is the last morning? Then slowly the light returns. Not all at once, just a sliver, like a promise. The chants quiet. The cries turn to coughs. Someone laughs, high-pitched, too loud, too long. The sun peeks back its curve, now reversed. The street glows again, hesitant. And just like that, Rome breathes. You don't. Not yet. You exhale slowly, as if testing the air. People begin to scatter. Some speak of sacrifice. Others swear they saw a demon riding the eclipse. One man claims to have gone blind. The priest declares the gods appeased. You walk home stunned. That night, no one lights a fire. The streets stay dim, quiet. Children are kept inside. Offerings pile at street corner shrines. In your room, you sit by the wall and trace the light that once was. You try to convince yourself it was just the moon, just shadow, just sky, but deep down you know the truth. Rome fears many things, war, famine, betrayal, but what it fears most is when the heavens stop pretending to be stable. You sleep with one eye open, just in case it happens again. It starts with a whisper in the bakery line. You've been waiting for nearly an hour, not unusual. The sun has barely cleared the rooftops, and already there are 36 people in front of you. Some talk, most don't. Waiting has become an art form. Then someone says it, no ship today. The man behind you snorts. Of course there's a ship. There's always a ship. But his voice lacks conviction. Another adds, I heard the docks were empty at dawn. You shift your weight. Look toward the square. A boy runs past, barefoot eyes, wide. You don't ask why. When your turn comes, the baker steps into the doorway. He doesn't smile. His apron is clean, too clean. We're out, he says. No grain came in last night. No grain? You blink. He adds, might be a delay, maybe weather, maybe something political. No one moves. Someone in the back mutters, always politics. You leave without bread. That afternoon, you pass the granary. The gates are shut, guards posted. People whisper behind their hands. You see a woman with a baby. Ask a clerk when more will arrive. He shrugs, doesn't meet her eyes. By evening, the whispers become worry. You hear numbers 3 days' supply left, someone says. 2 if the South Quarter keeps hoarding. You check your jar at home. 1 handful of flour. Enough for a small flat cake, maybe. You skip dinner. The next morning you return to the market. No vendors, no carts, just empty stalls and a rising sense of quiet. No one says the word yet. But you all feel it, that tightness in the chest. The slow curl of fear in the gut. By the 3rd day, bread costs 3 times what it did. By the 4th, you see a fight, 2 boys' fists and elbows over a bruised fig. You walk away. At home, your stomach aches from nothingness. You drink water, Chew stale leaves. Pretend. The city changes, slowly, then suddenly. Lines form outside temples. Offerings of grain appear at shrines, moldy, broken, precious. The government posts a notice. The situation is temporary. Do not hoard. Citizens are advised to remain calm. No one laughs. One night, you hear a noise outside your window. A thump, then silence. You peer out. A man is breaking into your neighbor's pantry. You see his face. He sees you. Neither of you speak. You go back to bed. The hunger changes you. Your thoughts blur. You dream of bread so vivid you wake with the taste of ash in your mouth. You see people chewing rags, boiling weeds, eating scraps meant for goats. A child is caught stealing from a military kitchen. The soldiers beat him in public. The crowd watches, quietly. By the end of the week, a new notice appears. The grain ship has arrived. Distribution will resume tomorrow. You wait. The lines are longer than ever. You stand from sunrise to midday, feet numb, knees locked, eyes fixed on the cart that might hold your next meal. When your turn comes, the clerk hands you a half loaf. It's dry, dense, barely enough. You thank him anyway. You eat it, slowly, piece by piece, sitting on a cracked stair near the bathhouse. You don't even care that your hands are dirty. You feel it fill you. Not completely, but enough. Enough to think clearly again. Enough to walk home without shaking. Enough to hope the next ship comes on time. But deep inside, something lingers, a hollow that even food can't fill. You now know what it means when the grain doesn't come, and you'll never forget it. You don't know it's a drill at first. You're in the market, haggling over onions, when the first bell rings. Loud, sharp. Too early in the day for the usual temple calls. You look up, frown. Around you, vendors pause mid-sentence. Someone drops a basket of leeks. A second bell, then a shout, fire watch. You feel your stomach tighten. Rome burns easily. Everyone knows this. Too much wood, too little water. Too many people living too close, hiding too much under floors. You remember the last real fire, the smoke, the screams, the silence that followed. But today, there's no smoke. Not yet. A patrol officer appears in the square, blowing a whistle and waving his arms. Evacuation drill, he calls. All citizens to designated paths, move now. Some laugh nervously, some groan. You feel the pressure of movement behind you, a tide of bodies turning, shifting. You follow instinct, not orders. You head toward the north alley where the steps curve downhill toward the baths. It's usually quiet there. Not today. People flood the alleys. Someone yells, "It's not a drill." Another screams, "The bakery's on fire." You smell something. Smoke. Not much, just enough. That's when the pushing starts. A boy runs into you. You stumble, catch yourself. A woman shoves past, dragging two children by the arms. You hear sandals slapping stones, shouting, something crashing in the distance. You try to move sideways, toward the edge. Too late. The crowd swells. Trapped between buildings, the alley becomes a funnel. You can't breathe properly. The air is thick, not with fire, but with fear. Someone falls. You hear the thud, the grunt, the ripple of panic. You see a man try to climb a wall, slipping, clawing, failing. You shout, "Calm down." No one listens. You reach a junction, 3 ways to go. Left leads to the well. Right to the temple courtyard. Straight ahead, the main road. The guards block straight ahead. Why? You don't have time to ask. You're swept right. The courtyard is already full. Too full. People scream, not in pain and rage, in confusion. A voice rises above the chaos. "This is a test. Remain orderly." You want to laugh. Someone throws a jug. It shatters near your feet. You crouch, cover your head. You don't cry. You don't pray. You wait. Eventually, the bell stops. Just like that, the shouting fades. The smoke gone. A voice on a pedestal, an official from the fire brigade, declares the drill a success. People boo. You stand slowly. Your tunic is torn. Your arm scraped. You lost your satchel somewhere in the alley. You limp home. The next day, the city acts like nothing happened. The notice board in the forum reads Cohort 7's fire response simulation completed successfully. Order was maintained. Lessons learned. You stare at it. Order. You saw a man trampled, a girl faint, a priest beg to be let through a locked gate. You saw people become animals, not out of evil, but instinct. And you saw no one take responsibility. You keep walking. You pass a boy drawing in chalk flames, walls, stick figures. His mother scolds him. He shrugs. You wonder if he was there. You wonder if it mattered. That night, you lay on your mat and listen to the silence. No fire, no drill, but your hands still tremble. And when someone knocks on the neighbor's door, you jump. You'll never trust a bell again. You hear the pounding first. A fist on wood, quick, sharp, frantic, again and again. You live on the second floor, above the butcher's stall. At this hour, everything is quiet, the streets mostly empty, the sky just beginning to shift from blue to gold. You rise from your mat and cross to the window. Below, a woman stands barefoot on the stones, robes soaked with sweat. She's crying, not with sound, but with her body, shoulders heaving, hands, trembling head tilted just enough to show desperation, without shame. She's calling for help. She's not Roman. You see it in her tunic, rougher, simpler, in her arms worn with labor, in the collar of twisted rope around her neck, faint beneath the fabric. She's a slave. And she's carrying. Behind her, half hidden in the alley, another figure lies curled on the ground, another woman, young, maybe too young, belly round and pulsing with pain. You watch. You know where she's headed. Down the street, 4 houses away, lives Lucia, a midwife for the district. You've seen her deliver babies, bind wounds, speak sternly to husbands who hover too closely. She has strong hands and sharp eyes. The slave pounds again on Lucia's door. Please, she begs. Please, she's bleeding. A pause. Then the door opens slightly. Lucia appears, her robe hastily tied. She listens. You can't hear every word, just fragments. Not my responsibility. Not a citizen. Tell your dominus. The slave falls to her knees. She offers a pouch, small, trembling in her outstretched hands. Probably stolen. Possibly her only hope. Lucia glances down at it, then turns and shuts the door. You grip the windowsill. The kneeling woman doesn't move for a moment. Then she rises slowly, like someone carrying not just another person, but the weight of what's just been said. She stumbles back to the girl in the alley. You don't know her name. You don't know if she knows Latin. But you know the sound of a human trying to hold someone else together with only their hands. You grab your sandals. You hesitate. You're not a healer. You're not brave. But you walk down the stairs, across the street, toward the alley. When she sees you, she flinches, but doesn't stop tending. The younger girl is breathing in short, ragged gasps. Blood has begun to pool beneath her, not bright, but dark and deep. You kneel, offer water, offer cloth. She takes both. You say she needs help. She nods. You say I'll go back to Lucia. She grabs your wrist. No. Just that. No. You understand. The girl cries out, once, twice, then silence. You don't know what to do. You stay anyway. You hold her hand. You press your palm to her forehead. You murmur nothing because words are useless here. Eventually it ends, not with screams. Just breath, then no breath. The slave woman doesn't cry. She wraps the girl in a torn blanket. Then she takes the small pouch she had offered earlier and places it beneath the body's head like a pillow. She whispers something, then looks at you. Thank you, she says, in broken Latin, in full meaning. You nod. You don't ask what happens next. You already know. Later, as the sun climbs and the streets fill, someone tosses old fish guts near the alley. A cartwheel splashes blood-stained water. The day goes on. At the baths, people gossip about a senator's affair. At the bakery, they raise the price of barley loaves. At the temple, someone leaves grapes for Venus. And you pass by Lucia's house. Her shutters are closed, but you feel her watching. And for the first time, you wonder if silence can be heavier than sin. You wake to laughter. Not the kind that echoes in alleys or erupts from taverns at night. This is different, brighter, clearer, echoing from the open streets like a parade of joy you weren't invited to. It's a festival. You forgot, or maybe you never knew. Outside, the street is dressed in ribbons. Strips of red and gold flutter between windows. Laurel branches hang over doorways. The air smells of roasted meat and honey cakes. You step outside, slowly blinking in the morning glare. Children run past with wooden swords. A man in a tunic far too clean to be his own tosses flower petals from a basket. A woman sings as she carries a tray of flatbread balanced on her head. You wonder which god this is for. Maybe Mars, maybe Bacchus, maybe no one cares, maybe it's just an excuse to celebrate. You walk toward the square. Stalls that usually groan with vegetables now offer wine, sweet cheese, candied figs. Music floats from a flute you can't see. Dancers stomp on cracked tiles, their sandals spraying dust into the air. Everyone seems to have something: food, family, a place to be. Everyone except you. You pass the public fountain. Two boys splash each other, laughing, soaked to the waist. Behind them, an old man hands out small coins to children, his eyes crinkled with amusement. You don't stop. You turn down a side street, quieter, cooler. A baker's boy leans against a wall, half drunk already. He offers you a cup. You shake your head. Your stomach is empty, but your hands are too tired to accept generosity today. You reach the warehouse where you sometimes work. The door is locked. A wax tablet is pinned beside it, closed for the festival. Let the gods rejoice. You don't curse. You just stand there reading the words twice, then 3 times. You were counting on that coin. You sit on a stone step and watch a column of performers pass: acrobats, jugglers. A man on stilts, painted gold from head to toe. A monkey rides his shoulder. The monkey looks tired. You know how he feels. Later, you find a crust of bread near the back of a stall. You don't know who dropped it. You don't care. You eat it slowly, watching the shadow of a banner ripple across the ground. At sunset, the bonfires begin. You see one on the Aventine people, dancing around it, arms linked, eyes closed. Another near the river, where wine spills into water, and women sing to no one in particular. You stand at a distance. You think about stepping closer. But you don't. You go home instead. In your room, you hear fireworks, not real ones, but the Roman kind, pottery, shattered for fun, a string of dried laurel branches crackling as they burn. You lie on your mat, staring at the ceiling, listening to celebration echo through stone. Not angry, not jealous. Just elsewhere. The city is alive tonight. But it has forgotten your name. It's late. The kind of late where even the dogs have stopped barking, and the drunks have passed out with one leg in the gutter. The kind of quiet that makes your own breath sound too loud. You sit at the table, a board balanced on 2 clay jars, with a lamp flickering near your elbow. The oil is almost gone. The flame sputters. You dip your stylus in ink and stare at the wax tablet. Then you begin. My brother, I hope this finds you well. You pause. It won't. He's in Hispania, or so you heard. A legionary turned traitor, or maybe just a traveler. You haven't seen him in years. You don't even know if he's alive. Still, you write. You tell him about the rain last week, how the roof leaked again, how the boy down the hall grew tall enough to knock over the shrine to Mercury and did by accident, how the price of bread doubled, then dropped, then rose again, like a joke only the city finds funny. You mention the girl you once liked, The one with the crooked teeth and quiet voice. She married a barber and moved 2 streets away. You haven't spoken in months. You tell him about the baths, about the poet in the forum, about the temple fire. You try to make it sound interesting, but not desperate. You try to sound like someone who is fine. You fail. Halfway down the page, you stop. The lamp flickers again. You breathe in the smell of melting tallow and your own sweat. The walls close in, though they haven't moved. You start a new sentence. Sometimes I feel like I'm watching my own life from across the street. You stare at that line a long time. You don't erase it. Instead, you sign your name, just your first, the one only he used to say with the old accent, the one that made it sound like home. You fold the tablet. You don't seal it. There's no one to carry it. Couriers cost more than you have. And even if you handed it to a stranger at the port, what are the chances it would find him? You place the tablet under your bed. Not to hide it, just to keep it near. You lie down. In the dark, you whisper his name once to see if it still fits in your mouth. It does. You fall asleep, remembering the way he laughed sharp, sudden, like he didn't care who was listening. In your dream, he reads the letter, and he writes back. It starts in silence. No footsteps, no breath, just the soft hum of wind across dry stone. You're walking through a city, but it's not Rome. You know that immediately, not by the buildings, but by what's missing. There are no statues of emperors, no Latin graffiti, no smell of oil or iron, only dust, and something faint cinnamon maybe, or blood. You pass a colonnade graceful chipped. Vines grow where banners once hung. Your feet echo on polished floors. Each step sounds louder than the last, as if the stone beneath you is hollow, as if it's waiting. Ahead, a gate carved with figures, warriors, priests, a mother holding a child. They don't look like Romans. Their eyes are wider, sadder. You push open the gate. Carthage. You've never seen it, not in life, but somehow, you know the same way you know the shape of your own hands in the dark. The city is empty, but it's not dead. You walk past a market stall still laid with clay bowls, past a bathhouse where steam curls from a cracked mosaic, past a temple half buried in sand, its roof sagging like a tired prayer. You hear drums. Faint, distant, steady. You follow. The streets narrow, the walls rise, shadows lean in, then a square. In the center, a fire. Not wild, not angry, controlled, sacred. Around it, 12 figures, cloaked, silent, their faces hidden by masks, smooth, dark, blank. They do not speak, they do not move. You step forward. They part. At the center of the circle stands a man. Tall, barefoot. His robe is red, his hands inked with symbols you don't recognize. He looks at you, and you know without words this was once his home. And yours. You want to speak, to ask, to understand. But your mouth is heavy, sealed. He lifts a clay bowl. Inside ashes, he offers it. You reach out. Just before your fingers touch the ground, trembles. A sound splits the sky like bronze tearing. You look up. Above you, the eagle of Rome, massive golden with wings of fire, descends. The man does not flinch. But the others vanish. The bowl falls. Ash scatters. You run. Through streets that shift. Columns melt. Doors vanish. The city folds in on itself, like paper. You trip. You fall. You land on cobblestones. Rome. The smell of sewage, the clang of metal, the shout of a fruit vendor cursing the weather. You sit up. You're in the Forum. A senator walks past, brushing ash from his cloak. You look at your hands. Still dark with dust that isn't from this city. And on your tongue, the taste of something burned and sacred. You never speak of the dream. But sometimes, when you hear foreign words in the market, harsh consonants, soft vowels your ears prick. Sometimes, when you pass a pile of rubble, you think you see a carved elephant buried beneath it. Sometimes when you close your eyes, you see that fire again, and you wonder what it meant to be Roman, and what was lost to make you one. It's a quiet morning, the kind that feels like it doesn't belong in Rome. No shouting, no carts, no urgent sandals slapping stone, just the hum of wind through hanging laundry and the distant clink of metal being worked. You sit near the edge of the forum, legs stretched back against a cool marble wall. The sun hasn't yet burned the dust from the street. You're eating a pomegranate, carefully picking each seed. It's one of those rare moments where nothing hurts. Not your back, not your stomach, not your thoughts. And then he speaks. Name. Just that, one word. You look up. A stranger. Not poor. Not noble. Not dressed like anyone you know. His tunic is simple, clean, but the color is odd. A blue that looks foreign, like it doesn't belong to the city. He isn't carrying a scroll, or a weapon, or a badge. Just a pouch at his waist and a quiet posture. You pause. Then answer. A name, but not yours. He nods, as if that's all he needed. He doesn't ask again. He just sits beside you, leaving a respectful distance. You keep eating. He pulls out a dried fig, offers it. You take it. You chew in silence. Minutes pass. Then he speaks again. You live nearby. Yes, you say. That part's true. Family. You shake your head. He doesn't ask more. Another silence. Deeper, but not uncomfortable. Then he says something that makes your chest tighten. I used to live here. A long time ago. Before I changed. Before he changed. You glance sideways. His eyes are soft, tired. Not old, but aged by something heavier than years. Changed how you ask. He looks at his hands, turns one over, stares at his palm like it holds a secret. I forgot who I was supposed to be, he says. Started over. It was easier. You nod slowly. You think about the name you gave him, not yours, but one close enough. A name you heard once in a play, or maybe from a friend long gone. You don't know why you chose it. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was fear. Or maybe for one moment you wanted to be someone else. He stands, brushes dust from his tunic, looks down at you with a half smile, not suspicious, not amused, just understanding. Be careful, he says. Then he walks away. You watch him go. He doesn't turn back. You finish your pomegranate. The seeds taste bitter now. You rise, stretch, begin walking in the opposite direction, not toward home, but away. You don't know where your feet are going. You just want space. You pass a mirror, not glass, but a polished bronze dish, propped in a merchant's stall. You see your face. And for one moment, you wonder if even you would recognize your own name. The line is long. It stretches from the Temple of Jupiter, Optimus Maximus, all the way down to the foot of the Capitoline Hill. You join it just after sunrise, expecting nothing more than incense, a glance at a priest, a small blessing. Maybe a sliver of peace. You stand between a fishmonger and a boy holding a small lamb, its legs bound with red ribbon. The boy doesn't speak. The lamb doesn't struggle. You envy them both. The sun climbs slowly. By the time you reach the front steps, your feet ache. Your tunic sticks to your back. The crowd is thick with sweat and anticipation. At the gate, two guards in bronze stop each visitor. They check tokens, whisper to scribes, nod or shake their heads. When it's your turn, you offer your name, your district, the coin you polished last night. The guard looks at your hands, then at your face. Then he says it. Not permitted. You blink. Why? No citizen record on temple rolls. You open your mouth, close it again. You want to explain that the census is wrong, that your father once lit torches for this very temple, that you've fasted, that you've prayed, that you are trying, but the guard's face does not change. He steps aside. Next. You step back. Someone brushes past you, a woman with gold earrings and soft sandals. She doesn't look at you. she's already through. You stand at the edge of the gate, feeling like a child, locked out of a room where the adults speak truths. Inside, music rises flutes, chimes chants. You catch the scent of burning laurel. It curls around you like a question you cannot answer. You wait. Maybe someone will come, ask your name again, say it was a mistake. No one does. Eventually, you sit on the stairs. And you listen. That afternoon, the city celebrates. Banners wave, priests declare omens favorable. The consul praises the harvest. But your ears ring with the sound of "not permitted." You walk home slowly. You light your own incense. You whisper a prayer no one will hear. And for the first time you wonder, is a God still yours if their servants say you don't belong? It starts with a smell. Not sharp, not rancid, just wrong. Faint at first, like wet wood left too long in shadow. Then stronger, heavier. You notice it on the third day. Your room is above hers, the old woman. You didn't know her name. No one really did. She lived alone, kept her shutters closed, even in summer. Sometimes you heard her muttering to herself in Latin, in Greek, in sounds that might have been both or neither. She once gave you a dried apricot without a word. You remember that. No one's seen her for a week. You ask the man next door if he's heard anything. He shrugs, she's old, as if that's an answer. You knock once. Then again, no reply. You press your ear to the door. Silence. Not even the creak of a chair, the rustle of cloth. Nothing. You consider pushing it open. You don't. You go to the landlord. He grumbles, says she always pays on time, says maybe she's visiting family, says he'll check when it's convenient. He doesn't. By the fifth day, the smell thickens. It seeps into the hallway, into your clothes. You hold your breath when passing. Then one morning the door is open. Not wide, just a crack. You see a shadow on the floor. Still, curled like sleep, but colder. You don't enter. You tell a city officer. He arrives an hour later, already sweating. He doesn't ask questions, just steps inside with a cloth over his nose. He comes out 3 minutes later. She's dead, he says, then adds a while ago. A scribe comes, writes something on a wax tablet. A neighbor offers oil to burn. Another mumbles a prayer. You stand near the wall and watch. No one cries. They carry her out wrapped in canvas, light, too light. A cart takes her to the pauper's field outside the city. No family claimed her, no name recorded, just a space. That evening, someone moves into her room. By the next week, the smell is gone, but something else lingers. In your sleep, you hear a voice, not loud, not angry, just there. Sometimes it says your name. Sometimes it doesn't. You light a candle for her. Not because you believe it will help, but because you know what it means to disappear. It begins like most foolish things with excitement. You're at the Circus Maximus. The air smells of dust and sweet wine, and the crowd roars like a living animal. You can feel the sound in your ribs, in your teeth. Today is special, a public holiday, and the factions are racing. Blues, greens, reds, whites. You've always favored the greens, not for any reason you can explain. Maybe it's the way they crash more often. Maybe it's because their horses always seem one breath from rebellion. You have one coin in your pouch, not silver, just bronze, enough for a loaf of bread or a bet. Your friend says go on just once. You nod. The Green Rider looks confident. His name is Lucanus. His team is younger than the others. Smaller horses, lean and wild-eyed. But you feel lucky. You shout over the crowd, placing the coin in the man's hand. He nods, marks your choice. The gates open. The chariots burst forward. Dust explodes into the air. Whips crack, wheels groan, horses scream, or maybe that's the crowd. They race like demons unleashed. The Blues pull ahead. The crowd surges. Then on the second lap, a crash, a sharp one. A wheel breaks, a man tumbles. not yours, not yet. You can't see Lucanus, just green blur and sweat and speed. Then the third lap. Lucanus gains ground. He cuts inside, too sharp. Another crash. This time, it's him. The chariot flips, wood splinters, a horse's leg bends wrong. The crowd erupts, some cheer, some gasp. You don't move. Lucanus doesn't get up. You feel your stomach knot. You hear someone laugh behind you. Should have bet on the Blues. You leave before the last lap. The coin is gone. That night, you eat nothing. Not from hunger, but shame. Not for losing the bet, but for caring more about the race than the rider. You hear later that Lucanus died. Not immediately. He lingered. A priest anointed him in the sand. Someone says he was 17. A boy. You see his face in dreams, sometimes not in pain but blank. A smear of green paint still on his cheek. You never bet again, and whenever the crowd roars too loud, you feel something sink inside your chest. Something you won't name. It begins with a crowd. You don't know what's happening at first. You're walking through the forum half asleep, on your way to the fountain, but the noise, low rhythmic, pulls you in, like water lapping at a dock, like thunder you haven't yet seen. Then you see them. The guards first, 6 of them, marching in pairs. Shields polished, faces unreadable. Behind them, the man. He's young, maybe 30, maybe less. His hands are bound, his tunic is torn but clean, as if someone made sure he'd look presentable for this. His eyes don't search, don't plead. They stare straight ahead as though locked on something far beyond the square. People step aside to make room. Some jeer, some spit. A woman with a basket of grapes offers one to a child who doesn't take it. You hear whispers. Forgery, blasphemy, treason. No, he struck a tribune. No one knows. Everyone believes. They reach the platform. A small wooden structure, just high enough that everyone can see. You remember seeing it once before years ago, but never used. Until now. He climbs without help. You're not sure why you stay. Curiosity, maybe, or cowardice dressed as courage. A magistrate reads a statement, loud, flat, rehearsed. You don't hear the words. You're watching the man's hands. He's shaking. Only slightly, but it's there. The executioner is already waiting. He wears a hood, not for anonymity, just for tradition. Everyone knows who he is. No one ever says his name. They bring out a stool. The man steps onto it. You realize what kind of death this is. You suddenly want to look away. But you can't. The crowd quiets. A child asks a question and is shushed harshly. A bird lands on the platform railing. The executioner moves behind the man. No ceremony, no speech. Just rope. The knot is tested, the stool adjusted. A pause. Then it's done. Fast. Too fast. The body jerks once, then stills. Some people clap. Some leave. You stand there, not sure what to do with your arms, your thoughts, your breath. You hadn't realized you were holding it. You feel lightheaded, like your body wants to leave but hasn't told your legs how. Eventually, the platform is cleared. The body is removed. The blood is not. You walk home through alleys that suddenly feel too quiet. That night, you dream of nothing, which is worse than dreaming of what you saw. The next morning, the platform is gone. A vendor sets up a fig stall in its place, and life in Rome continues. Like it always does. You notice it in the quiet. There's no knock on your door this morning, no joke shouted from the alley, no voice humming that half-finished song you've heard 100 times but never learned the words to. At first, you don't think anything of it. Maybe he's sick. Maybe he found work. Maybe he overslept again. But as the day stretches on, the silence grows. You walk to the corner where you always meet the chipped column near the olive cart. You wait. The seller recognizes you, nods, offers a free pit. You shake your head. You check the bathhouse, the bakery, the forum steps. Nothing. The sun sinks. Still nothing. You go to his building. His door is shut. The clay tablet above it, once etched with his name, is blank. You knock. No answer. The neighbor, an old man with cloudy eyes and too many opinions, tells you what happened without being asked. Said he was heading north, the man grunts. Last night. Didn't say why. Didn't even say goodbye. You stare at the door. It's not locked, just closed, quiet, abandoned in a way that feels worse than death. You walk home in a daze. That night, you find one of his old notes, a joke scratched on wax and slid under your door a few weeks ago. You read it again. It's not very funny, but you laugh anyway. The next morning, everything feels too loud. The birds, the footsteps, even your own breath. You catch yourself turning to say something to him 3 times before remembering there's no one there. You try to imagine what made him leave. A debt, a woman, a letter from home, or maybe it was nothing. Maybe he just woke up and decided Rome wasn't worth it anymore. You wonder why he didn't tell you. You wonder what you would have said if he had. That night, you walk to the city gate. You look north. You see nothing but hills and sky. You whisper, "Idiot," and mean it like a prayer. At first, it feels like a gift. Silence. Real silence, not just the absence of shouting, but the total hush of a world that has momentarily forgotten to breathe. You wake, slowly confused. There's no clatter of carts, no clanging of pots, no groan from the wooden beams above. Just the distant rustle of fabric, your own blanket sliding across your chest. You rise, step carefully onto the stone floor. Even your footsteps feel loud. You move to the window. The alley is empty. No vendors, no dogs, no children, even the pigeons are gone. You pull on your tunic, step outside. The air is thick with quiet, not dread, not calm, just thick. You walk slowly, barefoot, expecting someone to call out, to laugh, to scold. No one does. You pass the bathhouse, closed. The fountain, still. The baker's stall, empty. The stones in front of it wet, as if water had just been poured, but there's no one there to pour it. You reach the forum. It's deserted. Not ruined, not bloodstained, just paused. You stand in the center, turning in place, listening for anything. A bird chirps once, then stops. You wonder if you're dreaming. You speak your own name aloud. It echoes once, then is gone. You sit on the steps of the basilica. You wait. Time becomes a puddle, shallow, reflective, strange. You remember stories of cities swallowed by gods, of days erased by divine whim, of mortals given one morning alone to decide who they are. You wonder if this is that. You stand. You walk home. You light a candle, though it's not yet dark. You eat the last of your figs. You hum a tune no one taught you. Then, in the distance, a voice. Faint, familiar, a man arguing about fish. Another, a child crying. A wheel creaks. A door slams. You rush to the window. Life returns, like a breath you didn't know you were holding. The city is loud again. Fast, sharp, alive. You sit. You smile, and you whisper thank you. To what? You don't know. But something let you be alone, and something brought everything back. You don't notice him at first. You're walking quickly, arms full of laundry, trying to beat the heat before noon thickens the air. The alley is narrow, familiar. You've taken the shortcut 100 times. Then you hear it. Not a word, not a cry, just breath, ragged, wet, wrong. You stop. You turn. And you see him, slumped between 2 clay pots, half covered by a threadbare cloak. His skin is gray lips, cracked one eye swollen shut. His tunic is stained not just with dirt, but with something darker, older. You freeze. For a second, you're not in Rome. You're nowhere. Then instinct kicks in. You step closer. He doesn't move. You crouch carefully. His chest rises, barely. You whisper, "Can you hear me?" His eye, the good one, opens, just a little. "Water," he rasps. You hesitate. You have none. You glance back toward the street. People are walking by, talking, laughing. A boy tosses a stick to a dog. You wave. No one looks. You call. Still nothing. You run to the fountain. You fill your hands, spill most of it on the way back. You kneel. He drinks. His hand trembles as it touches yours. You ask, "What happened?" He closes his eyes. You ask, "Do you have a name?" No answer. You stand again. You approach a woman selling herbs nearby. "There's a man, he's hurt." She shakes her head. "Not my business." You ask another, "A man with a cart. Can you help carry him?" He frowns. Could be plague. You return to the alley. The man is still breathing. But slower. You don't know what to do. You tear a strip from your own sleeve. Wipe his brow. You talk not because you know what to say, but because silence feels cruel. You tell him about the weather, about the man you saw dancing in the Forum yesterday, about the girl who named her goat after Caesar. He doesn't respond. But he listens. Or maybe he just wants someone near. You stay for an hour. Maybe more. Then slowly his breath stops. Not with a gasp, just an ending. You sit with him a while longer. When you finally stand, you don't cry. But something has changed. You cover his body with the cloak. You whisper you were here. And that night, for the first time in years, you light a candle for someone without a name. It starts as a joke. You're in line for bread. The woman behind you asks your name. You pause, not because you forgot, but because you don't feel like saying it. So you give her a different one. Aulus, you say. It's the name of a boy you once knew. Someone bolder than you. Someone who always laughed too loud and never walked, only ran. She smiles. A good name. You nod as if it is. You expect to forget it, to go home and laugh at the moment. But you don't. You keep it, all day. You walk the city as Aulus. At the bathhouse, you greet the man at the door with a firm nod. You speak louder. You step first. You tell the vendor your father once served under Trajan, a lie, but one that sounds sweet in your own voice. You sit in the forum and speak with strangers about politics. You even disagree with one, politely, firmly. It feels good, different, free. In the afternoon, a girl bumps into you near the fountain. She laughs, apologizes, asks your name. You say it without hesitation, Aulus. She gives you a fig. You walk away smiling. By evening, the act has settled into your skin, like a second tunic, like muscle memory. You eat alone, but not lonely. The food tastes better. The street lamp glow feels warmer. You return home and pass your neighbor. He says your real name. You hesitate. Then nod. Say nothing. Inside, you sit by the lamp leg's folded hands, still. You ask yourself, was today a lie? Or was it the first time you told the truth? You fall asleep with the fig stem still in your hand. And in your dream, someone calls your name. You don't turn around. It's a letter, folded in half, sealed with dull wax, slipped under your door sometime before dawn. You almost step on it. At first, you assume it isn't for you. No one writes to you. No one remembers your name outside this alley. But it is. You recognize the script. Clumsy, but careful. From a cousin you haven't seen in years, not since you were both boys, racing each other through olive groves, daring one another to touch the edge of the landlord's fountain. You sit on the edge of your bed and break the seal. The wax flakes. The parchment is stiff. Your fingers tremble slightly, not from fear, but from the unfamiliar weight of being remembered. The letter is short. He's alive. He's well. He has land now, a wife, a small son with your grandfather's name, and he wants you to visit. You read it again and again, as if the ink might fade if you stop. You smile. Then, something strange happens. You put the letter down and feel nothing, not joy, not sadness, just stillness. Like a cup filled too quickly, like a door opening into a room you forgot you once built. You go about your day, the letter tucked in your sleeve. It warms your skin, but not your heart. At the market, you catch yourself standing still too long in front of the grape stall. At the baths, you forget the order of the rooms, hot, then warm, then cold. At home, you reread the letter by lamplight and wonder why it doesn't feel real. You tell no one. Not yet. You sleep with the letter under your mat. You wake twice in the night, certain it was a dream. It isn't. In the morning, you boil lentils and think, what now? What do you do with good news when you've only ever practiced grief? You fold the letter again, carefully. You don't answer it, not yet. But you whisper thank you, not to the gods, not to the messenger, to whatever part of you still hoped. Even when you'd stopped believing it would. You didn't plan to be here. You were just walking. Nowhere in particular. The streets pulled you like a tide, gentle and aimless. Past the butcher closing his stall, past a child counting pebbles in a cracked bowl, past the bakery that ran out hours ago. And somehow you ended up here on the ridge above the city. The Aventine, the wind is soft. The sky is turning gold. You sit on a flat stone and stretch your legs. Your knees pop, your back aches, but you don't move. You watch. The rooftops glow first, then the domes, then the banners waving slowly above the temples like tired hands saying goodbye. You breathe in dust, wine, olive smoke, the smell of Rome at dusk, and you feel it. Everything. The weight of the day, the noise, the silence, the people you love, the people you've lost, the names you've lied about, the prayers you whispered when no one was listening. It all arrives at once, like a tide. You don't cry. You don't speak. You just feel. Somewhere below, someone is laughing. Somewhere else, someone is screaming. You hear both, and neither surprises you. Rome is still alive, still beautiful, still brutal. You think of the dreams that brought people here. Yours, theirs the city's own. And how many broke on the stone before reaching the gates. You don't know if you've made it. You don't know if you ever will. But for this moment, sitting here, the wind in your hair, and the city glowing beneath you, you're not running. You're not hiding. You're just here. And somehow that's enough. The sun dips lower. Shadows stretch. The first star appears. And you rise, quietly, softly, like someone who knows the day is ending, but the story isn't. You've probably heard the stories. That Rome was the pinnacle. That its laws were just its cities, clean its citizens noble. That every road led here because there was no place better to go. That to be Roman was to be civilized, elevated, almost divine. But after everything you've seen, you know better. Rome was magnificent, yes, but not perfect, not even close. The roads cracked, flooded, full of carts that never yielded. The laws twisted, rigid for the poor, flexible for the rich. The architecture grand, but only from a distance. Step closer, and you smell rot in the alley beside the marble. You hear coughing in the shadows of the temple. You see someone sleeping beside the statue of a god who never speaks back. And the people. They were never all equal. Some wore togas and gave speeches. Others wore collars and prayed for one more day. History likes to flatten things, make them easier to teach, easier to sell. But real life in Rome was jagged, asymmetrical, glorious, yes, but also cruel in quiet, casual ways. You've seen the boy pressed into military service before he could grow a beard. The woman left to give birth without help because her name wasn't on the right scroll. You've seen the taxman smile while someone starved. This wasn't a golden age for everyone. And maybe, just maybe, no age ever is. They told you Rome was a republic, then an empire, but always a place where law ruled and the people had a voice. What they didn't say was that people didn't mean everyone. Citizenship in Rome wasn't a birthright for all. It was a gate. Sometimes you could earn your way in by service, by gold, by luck, but many spent their lives looking through the bars, never crossing. If you were born a slave, even freedom didn't guarantee full belonging. You were liberdus, a freedman, but never quite equal. You couldn't run for office, couldn't vote like others, couldn't marry certain people. You existed in a space Rome didn't want to talk about, no longer owned, but never fully free. If you were a woman, even a citizen, you had no voice in the Senate, no right to vote, no legal standing without a male guardian. Your name lived through fathers and husbands. The law looked at you but rarely listened. If you were from the provinces Gaul, Judea, Hispania, you might live under Roman roofs, pay Roman taxes, even die in Roman wars. But until someone with a seal and a stylus declared you worthy, you were not one of them. And if the census said you didn't exist, then you didn't. You've seen what that means. A man denied bread because his name was misspelled. A woman whose plea was ignored because she wasn't listed on the temple roll. A body buried without a name because the state had forgotten to write it down. Rome remembered its victories, but it forgot its people. And sometimes being forgotten was worse than being conquered. People speak of the Pax Romana like a golden spell. 100 years of peace, they say, a time of prosperity, of stability, of order. But whose peace was it? Not the boy pulled from his bakery to fight in a war he didn't start. Not the woman who watched her village disappear beneath Roman stone, told to be grateful for roads. Not the man denied entry to the temple because someone forgot to write his name on the list. The Pax Romana was real, but it was enforced, maintained by fear, stabilized by spectacle. You've seen what it cost. Public executions to remind people who was in charge. Censuses that erased the inconvenient. Officials who bribed and silenced with equal skill. Peace didn't mean justice. It meant quiet. No riots, no resistance, no noise from the margins. To Rome, order was sacred, but individuality, questioning dissent. Dangerous, so people learned to lower their voices, to nod when they wanted to speak, to say thank you even when the grain ships didn't come. And in that silence, the empire called itself eternal. But you've walked its streets. You've heard the silence crack. You know the truth. What looks like peace might just be fear with good lighting. Now that you've lived, it walked. Its alleys climbed its stairs, bled through its mornings. Ask yourself, who would you have been? A freedman, carving stone and hiding coins in the wall. A girl whispering prayers behind a shutter because the temple won't let her in. A boy lying about his name just to be heard. It's easy to imagine yourself noble. Clean, powerful, draped in white, but Rome didn't offer that to everyone. Not even most. It offered noise and law and shadows. And if you didn't fit neatly into the census columns, it didn't ask why. It just looked past you. So what would you have done? Would you have stayed quiet, like the woman whose neighbor died, and no one noticed? Would you have laughed with the crowd when a chariot flipped? Would you have thrown a coin at the poet, or stepped forward when no one else would? There are no right answers, only honest ones. And maybe that's the hardest part about Rome. It doesn't care who you wish you were. It only shows you who you are when the bread runs out, when the street is empty, when no one's watching but history. Close your eyes. Take a breath. You've walked the streets, waited in the lines. You've been counted, miscounted, forgotten, remembered again. You didn't just visit Rome, you lived in it. You tasted its dust, carried its rumors, sat beside its ghosts. You saw a child be taken, a body be ignored, a letter be sent and never arrive. And through it all, you stayed. You listened when the eclipse stole the sun. You stayed when the grain ships didn't come. You helped when others wouldn't. You watched someone die, then whispered their name in the dark. And now, somehow, you're still here. In your room, in your bed, but different. Because Rome never leaves you untouched. It lingers in the rhythm of footsteps, in the weight of silence, in the way you now notice every name scratched into a wall, every coin dropped without meaning. You're not Roman, but for a while you were. And maybe that's enough. Rome doesn't remember you. It remembers its walls, its wars, its emperors, carved in stone and flattered in ink. But not you, not the days you waited in line for bread, not the time you held someone's hand as they died in the alley, not the fake name you whispered just to feel safer, not the way your feet hurt after walking from one magistrate's door to another only to be told you didn't exist on paper. Rome remembers triumph, not laundry, not hunger, not ordinary lives lived in the shadow of arches too large to touch. And yet you were there. You woke to the sound of sandals on stone. You watched the sun set behind 7 hills. You sat on the steps of a temple that wouldn't let you in and still whispered your prayer anyway. You lived, and no empire, however eternal it claims to be, can take that away from you. Because maybe the most Roman thing you ever did was survive it. Now that it's over, ask yourself gently, would you have survived? Not just the plagues, or the soldiers, or the drought, but the boredom, the bureaucracy, the weight of being invisible for so long that even your name forgets how to echo. Could you have lived on 1 meal a day? Could you have stood in the crowd and stayed quiet when someone was punished for something you secretly believed? Could you have watched a neighbor disappear and still gone to work the next morning? Rome didn't kill most with fire or sword. It wore them down, quietly. And if you made it to old age, what would be left of you? A story. A scratch in the stone. A son who didn't know your real name. Maybe none of it, but maybe survival was never about being remembered. Maybe it was about choosing day after day to keep walking, to keep waking, to keep whispering your name under your breath, even when no one was listening. Even when you weren't sure it still belonged to you. No one built you a triumphal arch. No laurels were placed on your head. But you made it. You rose before the city, walked its streets, shared its hunger, felt its weight. You listened when others shouted. You helped when others turned away. You saw things no one recorded. You carried moments no one will remember except you. There were no statues for people like you, but Rome was full of you. And that's the part history always forgets, not the emperors, but the ones who kept breathing beneath them. You? Listen now. The streets have gone quiet. The shouting has faded. The coins have stopped clinking. The stones no longer echo. You're not in the forum. You're not in the alley. You're not climbing the hill to the temple. You're here, in your bed. Safe, still. Your breath is yours. No one taxes it. No one records it. No one measures it against the census. You are not surviving. You are resting. You are allowed to rest. Let your eyes soften. Let your hands uncurl. You did enough, more than enough. Sleep now. Rome can wait. Somewhere far away, a vendor is still shouting. A cart still rumbles down a cobbled street. A bell still rings from a tower that leans just slightly to the west. But you don't need to go there. Not tonight. You've walked enough roads. Listened to enough voices. Carried enough names that weren't yours. Let the city continue without you for once. Let its fires burn low. Let its shadows stretch. Let it forget to call your name. Because you're not listening anymore, feel the mattress beneath you. Feel the blanket on your chest. Feel the space around your hands open and soft. You're not running through the alleys. You're not standing in the forum. You're not kneeling at the temple gate, hoping they'll let you in. You're here. Safe. Quiet. Breathing. The empire is behind you. And what's ahead? Just sleep. Slow. Easy. Yours. Let it come.